The energy, the drama, and then that heart-stopping moment. The Toronto Raptors take Game 7 against Philadelphia. Good evening, I'm Magda Gebrselassie. Well, it was a battle right to the buzzer, and the Toronto Raptors clinched the win, advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. Our Greg Ross was there for all the highs and lows of Game 7 tonight. So, Greg, it was all about that final moment.
What an incredible moment it was. Maybe the greatest moment in Raptors history. And Magda, it happened right over here. This is the basket. Kawhi Leonard just runs around into the corner over here, puts up the shot over Joel Embiid, and then the incredible moment as it bounces off the rim. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times before it finally falls into that basket. And the Raptors win this game 92-90, and they move to the Eastern Conference Final for just the second time in franchise history. And I can tell you, the moment when that happened, just the atmosphere in this building, when that ball is bouncing on the rim, it felt like it was deathly quiet in here. And then the second that it fell in, this place erupted. Just the energy in this building, the excitement, and it spilled right outside the doors to the fans in Jurassic Park. And we caught up with some of those fans right after this game. Here's what they had to say.
Incredible redemption for Vince Carter. This is destiny now. Destiny. Kawhi.
I cannot believe that shot. That was amazing. Bucks, you better be ready, boy. MVP on the way.
Tears want to come out right now. I am so happy. This is the greatest trade we ever done in our life. I love you, Kawhi. Thank you. I love the Raptors. And I swear to God, I swear to you, we are winning the championship.
What an emotional night. But you heard that one fan reference Vince Carter. Redemption for Vince Carter. Almost 18 years to the day when Vince Carter and the Toronto Raptors back in 2001 were facing these same Philadelphia 76ers in the second round of the playoffs, a series that went to Game 7. And then with 2 seconds to go, Vince Carter gets the ball into his hands, puts up the shot, and he can't get it to fall. It was so eerily similar to this shot by Kawhi Leonard tonight, but that one didn't fall. And tonight, we get that excitement, and we get excitement from Kawhi Leonard, the kind of thing we have not seen from the Raptors superstar since he came here this past offseason. I asked him about that emotion that he showed immediately after sinking that bucket.
I'm a guy that acts like I've been there before, so probably the last time you probably see me scream is like when we won. So whenever it's like a moment where I haven't really experienced, I probably try to give some emotion, show some emotion, and let it just come out. So, you know, tonight was one of those nights. I've never been in that situation before, and like you said, it's the first shot somebody hit a game winner in Game 7. So I just showed emotion, and it was great. It was a great feeling. I'm just happy that we can move on to the next round.
Well, you've heard the saying, blood, sweat, and tears. Kawhi definitely left it all on the court. He was sweating. He was actually bleeding after making that shot. Kyle Lowry wiping some blood off his arm after that game. And there were tears as well. Joel Embiid, the superstar for the Philadelphia 76ers, cried as he left the court here. He was very upset. He cried back at the dressing room. Very emotional today. So this was a sad night for the Philadelphia 76ers. But jubilation here in Toronto for the fans of the Raptors. And it looks like they'll be celebrating at least until the next round, Magda.
It was a memorable night. Thank you, Greg.
We're actually helping Canadian families, taking care of their families so that they can work.
Separated from their own children this Mother's Day, migrant caregivers organize a call to action. Will the government address their concerns? Find out after the break. Communities along both sides of the Ottawa River remain under a state of emergency tonight. This as days of rain plus overflowing reservoirs and more snowmelt is driving water levels up again. It means more sleepless nights for residents fighting to protect their homes. Olivia Stefanovich met up with some of them today.
The only way to reach everyone stranded is to get on board. An hour and a half north of the capital, 100 homes are engulfed by the Ottawa River in this area. And now the military is stepping in. Canadian Armed Forces troops aren't just here checking on the water level, but also people's well-being.
You're okay? All your neighbors are good? As far as I know.
Making sure everyone is safe and has an evacuation plan. Captain Roland Llewellyn-Thomas served 7 months in a war zone. Now he's making sure people at home get the care they need.
I went to Afghanistan a long time ago, and this is very rewarding to be able to see the impact we're having helping fellow Canadians.
This is the Etchier's family cottage, where the water's edge is typically much lower.
If you look at this photo here, it's usually way about 30-40 feet down from where it is now. The water now is about borderline with our deck.
So the water's come over that retaining wall?
Over it, yes, yeah.
Cheryl Etchier grew up here. To see it in this condition now,
it's heartbreaking. I never thought that this would happen.
Her dad's never seen the river this high. The cottage withstood the historic flood of 2017. Now water is 2.5 feet higher than 2 years ago, seeping through the squishy floorboards. What is your biggest worry right now?
Mold. Mold is the biggest thing. If we can keep that to a minimum.
The family vows to rebuild, but it's taking an emotional toll.
I'm tired. I'm very tired. I'm stressed. That's all, depressed. But at other times I think about, what I have to do to rebuild too. I just can't sit there and say, okay, we're just going to take a bulldozer down. No, we're not going to do that.
As the second crest passes, the beloved family cottage remains vulnerable, especially with more rain in the forecast this week. The fight here, far from over. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Westmeath, Ontario.
We're spent. We're running on, I don't know what we're running on.
What we're witnessing now with some of our infrastructure is literally crumbling, being some of our streets, and the berm that we've created is now secure.
Everybody's getting tired, everybody's run down, but we got to keep it going. It's my home. I built this house and I want to keep it. We just got to keep fighting the water for now.
Some residents from the small town of Mattawa are left fighting for their homes tonight. Dozens have already had to leave parts of town as water levels continue to rise. Crews worked all day to shore up downtown streets. The only bridge joining the two ends of the city or the town has been shut down. And now there are flooding concerns for some communities in southwestern Ontario. Officials have issued a flood warning for Leamington and Kingsville due to heavy winds. Now that's creating big waves in waterways and flooding on some local roads. There's also a flood watch in place for the Lake Erie shoreline and the Detroit River. Amanda Weldon joins us now with the first look at the weather. So Amanda, a lot of those areas expecting more rain this week?
Yeah, we are going to be seeing more rain, Magdalena. Now let's get into it. So a big part of this has been those rivers rising due to rain. Friday and Saturday, we had that huge event and it actually rose rivers and tributaries quite a lot. And that's what we've been seeing with the current levels. And also a thing to note, within the end of May and into June, it's expected to get a little bit worse. So with rain on the way, we kind of have our fingers crossed because a lot of these areas, the Canadian Armed Forces working so hard with that. Monday morning for Toronto, though, we aren't in that flood stage for the city of Toronto, but 5 degrees for you, it's going to feel like 0. So still kind of a tough way to wake up in the morning. We are well below the seasonal mark. Seasonal by the time this year, normally around 17, 18 degrees. So wet conditions continue, a cool easterly flow as well. And one thing to note, with this rain on the way, and then as well some of those winds, that's what gets to work around those shorelines when it comes to erosion and degradation of those shorelines. So 15 to 25 millimeters, that's throughout was the rest of our Sunday and into our Monday morning. Those winds are really going to start to pick up as well. Magda, we were actually pretty lucky for this Mother's Day that we weren't dealing with too much rain in the morning for everyone that was out for walks. So I hope you got a chance to get out and enjoy it just a little bit.
Thank you for that.
No problem.
Happy Mother's Day to all the fantastic moms out there. Earlier today, we hit the streets to ask a few people what mom means to them.
I can do anything and she still will love me. My mammy, which is my grandma, she's been through like everything. She's come to all my dance recitals, all my hockey games, so it's important that I do stuff for both of them.
What didn't she do? Like, I can't imagine asking her to do something and her saying, no can do.
Like that little bit of effort for Mother's Day can't really compare to what she's done for me, but I have to try.
Now, the reality is not all mothers could be with their children today, and that includes migrant caregivers who left their families behind to come work in Canada. The wait to become permanent residents has been long for some, and now they say a new government policy is another hurdle. Kelly Ewan has this story.
A mother sits by herself at an empty table. The setting, a symbol for the hundreds of migrant caregivers in Canada separated from their children this Mother's Day.
It's really hard because, I wanted to be with them, but I can't.
The last time Joey Cruz saw her daughters was 3 years ago before she left the Philippines for Canada to be a caregiver. To this day, she is still waiting for permanent residency, and she's not alone.
What do we want? Landed status!
Migrant caregivers and their supporters organized this call for action at the corner of Bloor and Spadina this afternoon. The current caregiver program, set in place when the Conservatives were still in power, will expire in November. The Liberal government has acknowledged the program had hurdles that prevented many caregivers from gaining permanent residency. In March, Immigration Minister Ahmed Hussein announced a pathway for those who have worked in Canada for at least a year to receive permanent status, but they were only given 3 months to apply.
How do I process all the papers for 3 months?
That it involves taking the language test, making sure you have the educational assessment, making sure you have all the documents from back home.
The minister's office responded to CBC saying if an applicant is unable to provide a required document within the application period, they may include proof that they will obtain these documents soon. Still, Cruz and the other mothers here wonder why there needs to be a deadline to begin with.
It's giving us so much stress just to think about what's going to happen to us.
Those here say they hope their concerns will be top of mind as the federal election looms closer. Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
We look forward to speaking out further about the torture harassment that we experienced.
Jailed and sentenced to 40 lashes. 2 Canadian women return home after an ordeal in Somaliland. We'll tell you why. A Gatineau man is in custody today after police say he crashed a vehicle with a toddler on his lap while impaired. Police discovered the vehicle in a ditch around 2 o'clock in the morning with no one inside. After investigation, police now allege the accused, another passenger, and 3 children were in the car. The kids are 1, 8, and 11 years old. Police say the accused, believed to be their father, has been charged with impaired driving. He and the 22-year-old passenger also face charges of criminal negligence. There were no reports of injuries. 2 Canadian women are home after an ordeal in East Africa. It began with a journey to Somaliland, a self-declared independent nation in Somalia. What it turned into was time in jail. The CBC's Natalie Nanowski has the story.
I don't really know how I feel. I feel a lot of things, so.
28-year-old Maimona Abdi was too shaken to answer questions. So she read a statement saying it was media coverage that pressured Somaliland officials to finally let them go.
We waited for statements from MPs and ministers of government that never came.
Abdi had gone to Somaliland alone to fight for women's rights. Instead, she and friend Karima Watts spent more than 2 months in prison. In a recorded phone conversation with advocates working to free the pair, Abdi described her mental state.
I'm nervous all the time. I have anxiety, I'm depressed. I'm being held in here even though I did nothing.
The women were arrested for allegedly consuming alcohol, which is forbidden in Somaliland. But advocates say Abdi was targeted for her work to stop forced marriages.
It was the police saying, you're interfering in the affairs between husbands and wives, so we're going to silence you. And that's when the nightmare began.
They went there on their own volition. They weren't affiliated with any NGO. There is a travel warning in place from Canada. Some people would look at this and say the government doesn't have to intervene.
If we're going to honor and celebrate the idea of grassroots solidarity and cooperation, this is what it looks like.
Canada does try to do what it can, but this lawyer says people shouldn't depend on the government to save them. That's especially true in a place like Somaliland, where Canada has no diplomatic presence.
The regime tends to be very authoritarian. There's no rule of law and there's massive corruption. So it's a high-risk scenario for any Canadian.
Global Affairs Canada isn't commenting today. The women are happy to be home, but they aren't happy about having to repay the government $5,000 for the flight. Experts say that's standard practice, though, and the price you pay for a safe trip home. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
A pilot in Myanmar is being credited with preventing a disaster after he landed a passenger jet without its front landing gear. It was a rough touchdown as the plane skidded down the runway on its nose. It kicked up smoke, but no one was hurt. Before coming down, the pilot passed the airport twice to allow controllers to check the gear visually. It's the second aviation incident in Myanmar in a week. Well, it has been said that Donald Trump started his re-election bid the moment he became the U.S. president. He's certainly thrown enough rallies to fire up his base. But the Democrats are now in full-on campaign mode, too. Almost 24 contenders so far. And as Paul Hunter reports, each one is trying to find the message that'll take off.
It's a familiar scene among Democrats across the U.S. these days. In this case, Texas lawmaker Beto O'Rourke campaigning this weekend in New Hampshire. He's hardly alone. In the battling over who will take on Trump for the White House next year, it's become a very crowded field. California Senator Kamala Harris today, for example, pledging tougher gun laws.
I'm prepared to take executive action because that's what's needed.
While South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg took a more general tack.
I am here to build bridges and to tear down walls.
But the challenge for Democrats broadly is deciding the best way forward. Policy ideas or, as backers of former Vice President Joe Biden insist, is it that voters simply want whoever can send Trump packing? Indeed, say many, that's Biden.
I would vote for Joe Biden because I think he has the best chance
of winning the presidency.
But after all this time with President Trump, the biggest question of all, how many Trump voters from 2016 will stick with him next time? Likewise, for that matter, senior Republican lawmakers.
It's Saturday Night Live.
Though as it went in a skit on Saturday Night Live last night, the answer may well be plenty.
Okay, let's say Trump open hand slaps you in the face. What would you say then?
Harder, Daddy.
And so it goes. As Trump himself put it last week, to all those now lining up to take him on,
I'll take any. Let's just pick somebody, please, and let's start this thing. Let's start it. Pick somebody.
after all, he might well have added, only 540 days left until the vote. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Come on in and let's take a picture of you with your pet.
Mommies and their fur babies get their pose on. We'll take you to this portrait studio after the break. Is Mother's Day for dog moms too? Well, this award-winning photographer sure thinks so. She set up a portrait studio as part of Toronto's Contact Photography Festival to snap a shot of moms and their four-legged children.
Moms come in all shapes and sizes. We're not only biological moms, we have step moms and foster moms and dog moms. I was asked to do an exhibition for Contact Photo Month, and I was like, exhibition, let's do something a little bit more fun. Let's have an actual dog studio. I'm not a mother myself, but I have a dog, and so I'm somebody's mother. I think she forgot. She did not make me breakfast in bed. She didn't bring me flowers. She didn't bring me chocolate.
He didn't do anything for Mother's Day for me though, but it's fine. I treat my baby like he's my precious. In comparison to real mothers though, real nothing, I think the real mothers should get more.
Well, up early and braving chilly temperatures, thousands of runners hit the road for this year's Sporting Life 10K.
This is my first 10K, so I didn't know what to expect, but I enjoyed the experience. We did it for Camp Ooch, great cause.
I think it's the greatest thing going because it brings the community together and it gives us all a great feeling of purpose.
We learned about Camp Ooch when we found out our daughter had cancer, brain cancer. She was born at 2011. We lost her at 2016, but we do this every year for her.
You heard there the money is raised and is going to Camp Uchigayas. It is a camp for children affected by cancer. And a shout out to the CBC Toronto team for participating in the cause. Amanda Weldon is back with a look at the long-range forecast. Amanda, can we actually expect for things to warm up anytime soon?
I was going to say the long run, going to the long range. I like it. Would you have participated in that run today if it was nicer?
Maybe. I don't hold me to that. Probably not. No.
You're like, I was working. It's fine.
Yeah, I was fine. I was watching.
Right, let's get into the long range. 7 degrees. That's the afternoon. There is rain in the forecast. We were talking about the rain coming in for Monday, starting the week off with that swath. But looking into the long range, it seems to linger around quite a bit. I'm kind of the bearer of bad news on this one, too. I'm wearing red because I want the heat to come, but you know what? It's actually not going to. We have still that cold front slicing on through. Our temperatures are well below the seasonal mark. Just constantly start thinking, okay, 17 degrees, that's normally where we are this time of year. The easterly flow off the lakes is not helping at all. So looking into Monday, we've got that widespread rain forecast. If you are heading up to the Cottage or Dundalk Highlands, actually, you could actually get some mixing in the morning. So even some flurries could fly for you. At least we get up to 12 degrees on Tuesday, and the true testament to a long range forecast, we will look at our 7-day forecast. So this low, it's going to linger around and stall just a touch. Monday into Tuesday, we were looking around 25 millimeters of rain around the city of Toronto. By Wednesday, we'll rebound just slightly to 16 degrees. Thursday, we're looking at the 14. Friday, another dip down, but slowly starting to feel even a little bit warmer than our actual degree forecast. So that's all good. You got to look at those pops as well. If you're anywhere around the city of Mississauga, a very similar story. 7 degrees for you to start your Monday. And for Niagara Falls, you get those double digits, but still the rain story. It's interesting, actually. Toronto tomorrow around that 7-degree mark. Timmins up towards the north, 17 degrees. So quite the dichotomy of what's happening up towards the north versus towards the south. And just one quick look of that system spreading its way out to eastern parts of the country into the end of the week. We'll talk to you a little bit later on this forecast, Magda.
Might be a time for a trip to the north there. Thank you, Amanda.
I think so.
That's our show for tonight, but before we go, we will leave you with some views from Jurassic Park earlier tonight. The hits and the misses, every moment electrifying for the fans. Thanks for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great night.